Good morning, third graders. It is Monday, May 11th, and we are jumping back in our math book to lesson 8. So please make sure that you are on page 170 in your hard books. And today you will need your ruler. Hopefully you were able to pick it up during the drop-off and pickup days. If not, you don't have a ruler at home, you can always go to Google and just print out a paper copy of a ruler, and you can use that for this assignment. But you will need a ruler for this entire lesson, so please make sure that you either print one out from the internet or you're able to grab one at home. So today we're going to measure to the nearest inch. We're going to estimate and measure length to the nearest inch. So first thing I want you to do is get comfortable with your ruler. I want you to take your ruler out, and you're going to see that there's two sides of a ruler. On one side it says INCH, which is an abbreviation for inch, and on the other side it says cm, which is an abbreviation for centimeters. We're not going to work with centimeters today, and centimeters, another way you can tell the difference if your ruler happens to not be labeled, is the smaller little lines is for centimeters and the bigger lines will be for the inch. So just make sure you're on the side that says INCH or IN, maybe your ruler says IN. So what we're going to do today is measure. We're going to estimate and measure. And what that means is before you measure an item, we want you to look at it first and take a guess of I believe maybe this is about 6 inches. So then after I take my estimated guess, I'm going to take my ruler, I'm going to make sure it's on the side that says INCH, and I'm going to make sure that my ruler touches the very bottom of whatever I'm measuring, and then I will see that the exact measurement is around 8 inches. So my estimate was 6 inches and my measurement is 8. Your estimate and your measurement do not have to be the same to get a correct answer for this. We want you to estimate without measuring first, okay? We want to just see how close you can get. As you can see, I was wrong. I was incorrect by 2 inches, and that's okay. It's not like I said 100 inches. I was pretty close. So what we're going to do is we're going to look at another example. It says, in this lesson, you will estimate and measure length in inches. An inch is a standard unit measured to measure length in customary measurement systems. So go ahead and grab a pencil that you have. And our pencils might be different lengths. I have a mechanical pencil. You may have a standard pencil, but maybe you sharpened it and it's really short. Maybe it's brand new, so it's kind of big. So we might all have different lengths and measurements for our pencils. So I'm going to take a guess. I'm going to estimate that my pencil is about 6 inches long. And I'm going to say that because the pen that I just measured, I said 6 inches, but I was wrong by about 2 inches. So now this looks about 6 inches to me. So I'm going to go ahead and measure this pencil now from the very bottom to the top, and I see that I'm pretty close. It is almost exactly 6 inches. So this assignment for today, you're going to see that you're going to be measuring and you're going to be estimating. We're going to go ahead and look at a quick video on how to use a ruler.
Thank you so much for joining me on this lesson where we are going to explore how to find the length of objects using a tool called a ruler. Now let's start by thinking about one of my favorite things in the whole world, food. So let's imagine a sandwich that is 1 foot long. Now you probably already know that 1 foot is exactly the same thing as 12 inches. They are two different units of measurement. And if we cut this sandwich directly down the middle in half, we know that each half would be 6 inches long. And for this lesson, we are going to explore using a ruler that has that same length of 6 inches. And we're going to take a look at what the symbols and markings on the ruler mean and how we can use them to measure different sized objects. So let's take a look at the side of the ruler that's labeled in inches, and you can determine that by looking for the word inch, or IN as an abbreviation. Notice the large numbers 1 through 6 are labeled on the ruler. Each of these spots is a value of 1 inch in length. So the distance between 0 and 1 is equal to 1 inch. The distance between 0 and 2 is equal to 2 inches, which can be expressed as 2 IN. The distance between 0 and 4 would be equal to 4 inches. But what would happen if we're measuring a distance that falls somewhere in between two of these values? Notice that there is a marking directly in between each 1-inch marker on the ruler. And each of those markings are going to represent 1/2. So in this case, we have a length of 4 1/2 inches. Now, what if we push our measurement a little bit further?
All right, we're gonna go ahead and stop the video at this point. I want you to be able to see where the 1/2 inch marker is, where the 1-inch marker, then you have another 1/2 to 2. And the reason why you do this is because things don't always measure exactly perfect. If I took this mouse and I measured it with the ruler, if I started it down at the 0 like they said, I would see that the mouse is only about 1/2 inch. So it's important to know that that line that goes a little bit longer in between the numbers signifies a 1/2 mark. So you'd put 1.5 or 2.5, and you might see this. So what we want you to do today, you don't need to write any of this down and you don't need to send any of this to us. We want you just to practice. Get 5 items of your choosing from your house and measure them. First, take an estimate, look at it, and think, oh, maybe it's about 1 inch long. It could be a toy car, it could be a remote control, it could be your iPad. Take estimates, look at it, say, okay, I think this is about 10 inches long, measure it with your ruler. Make sure you're measuring correctly. When you measure, you always need to make sure that you start at the end with the 1, okay? So if I'm gonna measure this piece of paper, and I'm gonna measure it this way. So if I'm gonna measure this piece of paper, if I just start it there, I'm not getting an accurate measurement. So what I need to do is I need to make sure that my ruler and whatever I'm measuring start at the same time. And then I'll see, when I look at this one, it's about 8.5 inches long, because I could see that it's stopping at that middle point in between the 8 and the 9, just like they showed us in the video. If you're in between the two numbers, you have it half, so you'd say 8.5. Once you are done playing around with your ruler, getting familiar with it, and you've measured the 4 or 5 things and estimated the 4 or 5 things around your house, then what we want you to do is, let's go ahead and look at your homework sheet for today. And your homework sheet says hands-on, measure to the nearest inch. And they're going to estimate that this battery is about 3 inches long. But when they actually measure it with a ruler, it's a little longer than 2 inches. So their estimate was close. Now, if they said the battery was 100 inches long, they're being silly. They're estimating way off. So the purpose of estimating is to get as close as possible without using a ruler. Then use the ruler. We want you to get a familiarity with it. As you get older, sometimes you'll have to go to a hardware store, Home Depot or Lowe's, and someone might say, well, how big is the door you're trying to replace? Now, if you look at the door and you think it's 100 feet, well, that's probably an inaccurate measurement. But if you know your measurements, you're better able to say, oh, my door's probably about 8 feet tall. So we want you to get familiar with estimating and measuring. So let's go ahead and look at number 1. Okay, we'll do number 1 together, but please understand that my screen is blown up. So when I measure the stamp with the ruler, it's going to be a lot bigger than what it should be when you measure it. So please do not use my measurements here because my screen is blown up. So if I look at this stamp, I'm going to estimate that the stamp is maybe 1 inch. So before I even touch my ruler, I'm going to estimate. I'm going to say this stamp's about 1 inch. But then I'm going to go ahead and take my ruler and I'm going to make sure that I start it at the very tip to the very end. And I see with this ruler on this screen that it's 4 inches. So then I'm going to put 4 inches there. Again, these are not what your numbers are going to be. Your estimate should be different than mine and your measurement should be different than mine. If you want to estimate 1 because that's what you think it is, that's fine, that's great. But your measurement will not be the same as mine as my screen is blown up. So when you're done with this assignment, again, you can take a picture of it, send it in to your teachers. If you have any questions about a ruler, please go ahead and email your teachers. You can always find videos on YouTube. Please ask your parents' permission. And I hope you guys have a very blessed Monday. Bye, guys.